It's Alana here. I'm just doing a video to just talk to you a little bit about updating risk factors on Vaginet. It's something that seems to be slipping through our fingers a little bit. It's being updated quite well in the community, but then once the person's getting into hospital, we're not so good at picking up everything. So I just wanted to refresh everyone's memory as to how to do it, when it comes up, and why it's really important that we do it. So for this example, I'm going to look at every stage. This person seems to have had their booking done, but as we can see from the right hand side of the screen, sorry if that's left, I'm bad with my left and right, we can see that the risk factors have not been updated, so we need to complete a risk assessment. So if we click in here, Vaginet has picked up from the booking appointment all of the risk factors that are significant to pregnancy. So it might be that it doesn't cover everything. So if it doesn't cover everything, we can add in more, but obviously they are here. We have the option of being able to do it multiple times. So we've obviously got our booking one, we can do different trimesters, when they come in an admission, intrapartum and postpartum. It is really important that when things change, so if they have a new diagnosis, if they have a new admission for something different, so maybe they're admitted with hyperemesis, that needs to be added. If they are being monitored for obstetric cholestasis, that should be added. And I think sometimes we're not always doing that. So, for example, we can see this person is at high risk of having a preterm birth because that is potentially they've had a previous premature baby before 34 weeks. So it's recognised that that's giving us high risk for preterm birth. It's not picked up any other risk factors, but we might add one in a minute. Baby risk factors, previous premature birth and previous large for gestational age, and medical risk factors, we've got someone that is rhesus negative. So if we went through this person and there wasn't anything else to add, we could go through and we could go none, and it fills that in for us. We've acknowledged that there's no risk factors in those areas, so we know that we've gone through and we've gone, okay, yeah, there isn't any. What the other thing we can do is we can click in the box. So I just where it said none, I can just click anywhere in that box and I can add in anything. So maybe it's something that's not necessarily been identified by Vaginet. So maybe someone had previous help. You could add that. If you do it by accident, you can then remove it. And also, obviously, you can remove the none. Do accept and close, and that's disappeared from there. One thing I find when using it, it can be difficult to know what goes in where, whether it's a gynae risk factor, mental health. So some of them are self-explanatory, but if they're not, you have the big long list of things that you can go through as risk factors. There's obviously the option for others in all of them, so all of them will come up with an other. So if something doesn't quite fit into what you think it might, something that you think might be a risk factor, you've got the option of other. If you do other, you've also got a box, so you could put whatever you need to in there. So for example, I'm going to put that this person has had a premature rupture of membrane. So if I'm not sure, I'm going to put rupture. So we can see current pregnancy risks. So we've got premature rupture of membranes, we've got prolonged rupture of membranes, uterine rupture, all those sorts of things. So I can then select it from there. I am going to delete other. And what it will do is it will now put it into my current pregnancy risk factors. So we've got that in there as well. Sometimes it will automatically assess the risk for you, but most of the time we know if they have no risk factors or very minimal risk factors, it's low, but in this case it would be high, so we select it from there. We can obviously authorise to say that we have done this and we have agreed either with what Badgernet has said or we've added anything else in extra, and we've done that. So once we save and close, that is then updated as a risk factor here. So we've got these. So when you're looking at your main page, obviously, yes, we know slightly different on the iPads, but they are still in quite an obvious place. You've got that as something to look at. If you need to go back in and edit it again, click back in that box and that form pops back up, and you can obviously change as to what. If you want to then add in a new one, same thing, type in risk assessment, and we can add it as normal. So obviously, as we say, different times. Some of these forms will come up automatically. So when filling in the smart booking form, it will come up as part of your flow through the form. Looking at the smart booking assessment, so obviously you can access that from enter new note or add to record on the iPads, depending on whichever way you're doing it. So obviously I believe in the community you mainly use iPads and desktops. So this would be something that you are relatively familiar with. So when looking at your risk factors, obviously we go all the way through and we get down to recommendations. So we see this section here, we've got all risk factors. So if we click populate risk assessment from this booking, it will add anything extra. So it will see anything else that it's potentially picked up. You can obviously add whatever you need to. Some of them aren't necessarily appropriate, but they're there anyway. And again, you can authorise it from that section. So when using the express booking form, you can find the risk factors within health history. Sorry, just reminding myself. So as you scroll through, you have your risk assessment at the bottom. This one will import some of it across, but you haven't got that that box that you had from the last time. This is a different patient, which is why we have different risks this time. So again, we've gone through and in this case we actually have someone that is low risk. Again, you can confirm that. So we should then do a new risk assessment on admission. So for example, this person is now post dates and is coming in for a induction of labour. So I should do a new risk assessment. So period completing, I'm doing on admission myself. I'm going to do it in the main box because it will come up easier. So induction. No, so in this case, it's not necessarily a risk factor that it identifies, so that's fine. Let's try prostaglandins. No. Sometimes it is a method, process of an elimination to make sure that you're covering everything. So this case, we're going to do post. Post terminator greater than 42 weeks. So in this case, actually, she doesn't score anything extra. So we can cancel that. And I can say again, she's normal, low risk, although I feel like I might want to add in other. So I will put in current pregnancy risks. I'm going to put in here induction for post dates. So here we go. So obviously, as you can see, that pops up there. And again, at the moment, she is still low risk because she is actually an outpatient induction, and we have that there. And again, we can authorise. Just to be a little bit quicker, I'm going to do another one because she's been sent home, come back in again for her second PROPES. So in this case, she's strommed in the night and now she's for augmentation. So we are starting to do an intrapartum one. So we want to do augmentation. So that is a pregnancy risk factor. And it is a intrapartum risk factor. So we will do it as augmentation required. So that's then added on there, and we know that that's potentially going to be happening. And we are going to move her now into a high risk because she is having augmentation of labour. So our labouring person has now progressed all the way through labour very quickly on starting Synto. Managed to do it in 2 hours, great. And she's had her baby. So obviously we go through and we add our labour and birth section as we do as our form. So we're going to start to record she's had a successful induction. As you can see here, we, as part of our form, it already has the button for us to update our intrapartum risk assessment. So it's there as a prompt. Often there's lots of things that you might think, oh, I don't need to do that. But if we really focus on that top button, it's really helpful if we can click that before we go further on and update our labour and birth, or even throughout as we're adding in our information on first stage of labour, we've got that button there as an easy way of updating our risk assessment. So I'm going to click in here, and again, same as before, this time, unfortunately, she has developed sepsis. So I'm adding that as another risk factor. So we've added that in, and that will update onto our risk factors that we see on the side. We could also, as we go down on the side on a desktop, they are here as our risk factors, and that will be in your information tab on the other side of your form on the iPads as well, so you can have a look. It hasn't updated yet because I haven't saved it, but it will be there afterwards. So I will come back in a minute with a postnatal. So I've now gone through and completed the labour and birth form. As you can see, I'm on the post-birth section. As we come all the way down to the bottom, again, we've got a little button that we can press. It is also a section on the iPads, and then when you open that section, the button that you press is on the right-hand side as you look at the screen. So again, I'm going to fill in a few more. So it already knows that I'm in the postnatal section. I'm going to go in and add a couple more because she's had all sorts going on. So we've already got analgesia. We've got all of our other bits and pieces. So it hasn't saved the sepsis from previously because I haven't finished filling in the form. So I am going to add sepsis again, just because I want to make sure it's definitely on there. So we're going to add that one on. We are also going to add, because she had a 3rd degree tear, so I'm going to type tear, current 3rd or 4th degree tear. I've just gone through and done this and forgotten what she had. I think those are the ones for her. So she's had her epidural, she's had her augmentation, she had sepsis, 3rd and 4th degree tear. I think that's enough for her, really. Oh, and she had a PPH. So postnatal risks, we've got PPH in there as well. So if I add that in, and again, obviously she is high risk. So we'd authorise this. I'm doing this to save time. And once we've saved this form, so as we know, we've got our baby being generated. Everything's refreshing itself. Lifestyle form, cancel that for the purposes of this. And you can see our current postnatal risks have updated here. We've got our intrapartum risks that were current pregnancy risks, obviously the sepsis and the induction of post-dates, our previous medical ones, and our mental health. So then I'm going to come back to our baby. So onto the baby now. I've skipped ahead a little bit and gone to the post-birth smart form. I've completed everything up until the risk assessment. So this is where we then go through and complete this from here. It may be because I'm in test, but it's something I'm going to look into. I just tried to use this button and it's not working, so bear with me. But we should be able to click that button and it should pre-populate from everything we've added. So if it's not working when you use it on the live version, I will try it in a couple of days and I will see how I can get that fixed. So sorry about that. If we want to get to our risk assessment before going through all the way through our smart form, if we go into birth details and scroll down a bit further, we have our risk assessment here, which we'll add into our information shortly. So we can do it either way. But here we go. So we're going to add in some maternal risk factors, slightly different form. So it's more focusing on specific things rather than adding everything in. So my person had a pyrexia. They were on IV antibiotics, sorry. And that's that one. So the one thing that I did miss on the last one is that I put she had a shoulder dystocia, so I did add that in afterwards, and that's now appeared obviously on our labour and birth risks. We're going to put it was a difficult birth because obviously we've had a shoulder dystocia. It all went very quickly. Our core gas was actually 7.1, so it doesn't score for that one, but we'd obviously need to if necessary. Current risks, so this is obviously what's happening at this precise moment. So baby is receiving IV antibiotics because of mum's potential sepsis. Also baby was 4.6 kilos, so will be would be on the large side, but we're not going to put it on the hypoglycemia pathway because it's not it. Current abnormalities, I've said none, and sensitive obviously is anything else regarding to our social risk factors. So I think in regards to all of this, we would put that this baby is high risk, and obviously we can add anything from there. So on saving my post-birth smart form, I can now see baby's risk factors either on pregnancy summary. As we go down here, we've got baby risk assessment. And then if we go into our baby, go into our overview, we should have our baby's risk factors here as well. So you might say, Alana, why are you harping on and on and on about all of this? So I'm sorry that obviously it's something potentially that you may not be currently recording and thinking, okay, we've got to do this as well. At the moment, because we're not necessarily recording everything in the right places, it's being missed and not picked up as well by our coding team. So by adding in these risk factors, someone at a glance can look at someone's records and identify, okay, this person was treated for or is being treated for these things without having to look through their notes. If we don't have these risk factors identified on this form, as we all know, it takes a long time to trawl through and find and look at every individual note. It's for all of us, including our obstetric colleagues, to update as we go along. They also have a video coming their way about different form, and there will be more coming out as we go on with more information, but really it would be fantastic to have some more updates on these risk forms, and any feedback I can get would be really helpful. If you feel like there might be an easier way for you to do it, or you would like maybe a bit of help around this, please contact me. I'm on my email. I'm only working 15 hours at the moment, but that may change, and I will check back in a couple of weeks to see how you're all getting on. I hope that's okay and I haven't gone on for too long. And yeah, thanks. You are all doing a fantastic job, and hopefully it's not too much of a massive change. Thank you all.